Hey everyone, it's Tara. Today is Tuesday, July, January 26th, 2021. I'm going to need that coffee. Like every episode I mention how much I'm going to need that coffee. Okay, so hello and thanks for coming to hang out with me again today. It is the start of another new year. January is at the precipice of being over and we're on to February. And it's been an eventful month, an eventful start to 2021. We unfortunately on New Year's Eve had to rush our youngest daughter, to the hospital because of an infection. She's fine now. It would, I'm not going to get too far into it. It was something I don't care to rehash or experience ever again. We're healthy and we're all good now. So that's how I spent New Year's Eve. I told one of the nurses, I was like, I wasn't expecting to see midnight. I was expecting to be in my bed asleep when midnight rolled around and not sitting in a hospital room holding my baby. But, that's how it was. So that happened, and then the raid on the Capitol happened, and then the inauguration happened. It was busy. It was a busy time for the United States for sure. And I'm hoping, I don't know, when I was watching the inauguration, which I'm thinking most of us can agree that Amanda Gorman was kind of like the highlight. Lady Gaga, good job. J-Lo, beautiful. But Amanda Gorman, and I was like, she's only 22. I'm 35. What in the world? Like, to have all of that beauty radiating out of you at such a young age is such a gift. Oh my gosh, I can't. So when I was watching the inauguration, and I'm not going to discuss political beliefs, but more just like thoughts that I had while watching it. Political differences aside, I was fervently praying throughout the entire inauguration that please let this be the beginning of better. Let this be the beginning of people listening to each other, and not just in government, but just people in general. Can we just be better people and be better humans? And I had the thought of, a lot of adults say they worry about the world they're leaving for their children. And what I thought when I was watching Amanda Gorman, who's 22, so in my head, I'm like, well, that's 22 is still a child, right? You're still so young. That I watch Amanda Gorman and I think our world is going to be okay because of the kids. So I think it'll be okay. There are more Amanda Gormans out there, which gives me indescribable hope that everything will be okay. It will not be easy, but it will be okay. So anyway, I don't want to dwell too much on that either, but oh my gosh, I would love a print of that poem, like a poster. How some people have like framed posters of like the Constitution or whatever, different kind of posters. I would have a poster of that in a very nice frame in my house. My God, it was so good. What else? I set some intentions for January, but in January for the rest of the year, just for kind of what I want to focus on for this year. And sometimes that carries on subsequently into other years. instead of choosing a word, like I've done that in the past, I've chosen words like simple. Keep it simple. This year, my catchphrase, I guess, if you will, is listen and be. So, because those are the two things that I really want to focus on, actively listening with the intent of not responding. Because most of the time when people are talking, it's just because they want someone to listen. They just want to be heard. They don't want your advice. They don't want you to be Superman. They're not looking for Superman. They just want to get it off their chest. So I just really want to listen. I want to be kind of like a sponge and just soak up what's going on around me from various different things. It could be listen to my kids, listen to my husband. It could be listen to, one news media outlet, listen to a different news media outlet, listen to this book from this author, listen to this book from this author. Be in complete silence and just listen to the sounds that are around you. Just completely listening with the intent of not responding. And let my brain just kind of marinate in what's going on around me. Really figure out for myself what's the purpose of what I'm taking in. Am I trying to learn? Am I trying to form an opinion? Am I trying to help? Am I trying to find peace? I just feel like the world needs better listeners. Everyone's really good at talking, and we all really just suck at listening. And I feel like in order to be a really good communicator, you have to first listen. So, which side tangent, I watched Bridgerton, not around my children. I just watched it on my phone when they weren't around because it got kind of racy. I didn't know that. I didn't know that at all. I turned it on thinking it was going to be like a Jane Austen. I knew Shonda Rhimes was kind of like behind it, like it's her production company, I believe. I didn't know that it was going to get hot and steamy like it did. But the story was really, really good. But I was telling one of my best friends here, I was like, I really enjoyed it, really liked it, couldn't stop watching it. But I could feel myself as the series like progressed in later episodes, I was getting more and more irritated at the lack of communication. I was like, why can't you just say what you need to say? And then I realized, okay, well, it's a period drama, and so there are some societal norms that they're playing to, whatever. So anyway, if they would just stop and listen and actually pay attention to each other, a lot of that would have been... Anyway, it was. I really liked it, needless to say. And the costuming and the colors, beautiful. So anyway, listen. And then the B is not like be as in peaceful and calm or whatever, but be is just like be myself. So they kind of connect. I cannot do one without the other. I cannot be completely authentically myself without listening. And so I want to have less screen time, which right now I'm not doing a very good job because I'm just not. I'm really distracted by different things, but less screen time, because I don't want to get sucked so far down into a rabbit hole that I can't get myself back out and look at the big picture of things in a, for a lack of a better word, a bipartisan view of things. I need to stay grounded in who I am. So I just want to be able to be me. So I'm going to take these glasses off because I'm starting to get a headache right here in my eye. Okay, enough of the chit chat. It's 10 minutes into this and I haven't talked a lick of knitting. So thank you for bearing with me. January was not, as far as like finished objects, not nearly as productive as December was, which is to be expected since a lot of my things that I'm working on currently that are taking all of my time are fingering weight larger projects. And so I do have a couple of finished objects to share with you. But before we start on that, let's start with what I'm wearing, which is a finished object. And this is, let me see, I'll pull my hair back. This is the Reluctant Homeschooler, designed by Caitlin Hunter. It's like a grandpa fit. It reminds me of Mr. Rogers / all of my teachers in elementary school, and all I would need is an embroidered denim jumper and an apple necklace. How ironic, I am actually wearing overalls, so that's kind of funny. Ha 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 ha. But I really enjoyed knitting this. I knit mine out of Barocco's Ultra Alpaca in Candy Floss Mix. I did not helical knit, and it wasn't until I started that I thought, well, maybe I should have. But it came out just fine. There's no difference in the colors. And it's interesting because from a distance, it looks like a pretty solid, like a lavender / amethyst color. But up close, it has, if you can, you can't see the color variances in it as well as you can when in person, but it is a mix of all different kinds of colors. See, if I get too close, then you can't see, but it is beautiful. I bought, and it's a worsted weight, and the pattern calls for bulky. So I just found my own gauge. They recommended to use a size 8 needle, a US 8. So that's what I use. I swatched it, liked it. That's what I used. And then I calculated to find my gauge. So I used a US 8 on the main fabric. The ribbing, oh, my hair is all over the place. The ribbing along the neckline and the pockets was done on a 6. The cuff on the sleeve was done on a 7, and then the bottom hem was done on an 8. And if I had to go back, that's the one thing I would have changed. I would have done all the ribbing on a 6 because I like how neat and clean the neckband is, but this hem on the bottom's kind of a little loose and messy. In fact, I had to go back and crochet the edge of it to kind of pull it in a little bit. I was going to completely take it out, but then I realized I'd already knit the neckband, and I just didn't want to go back and tear out all of that. And I've worn this a lot since I have made it. It is perfect for around the house. It is a cardigan, but however, my problem is, so I guess I have two problems. One is I should have knit the bottom hem on the size 6s, and then the other problem was with my button holes. I knew I wanted to use these buttons, but I didn't remember these buttons being so big. I thought they were smaller. So I made my buttonholes 1 stitch smaller than the pattern calls for. And I mean, obviously I got them on and buttoned, but I don't want to unbutton it because I'm afraid I'm going to break the yarn or that's just going to look really sloppy. So this is my cardigan turned pullover. I used 5 skeins of the Ultra Alpaca, and I had 8 ounces of yarn left over. So that was pretty darn good. I would knit this again, and I would knit this again in this yarn. I like it that much. And obviously I would modify and fix the bottom. I was able to purchase this yarn. This is part of my acquisitions for the month. I bought this with my Christmas and birthday money, and we're gonna get some lights there, so I hope that reflection or the light sunshine coming in doesn't bother you. So that was part of my Christmas and birthday money, and I'll talk more about what I bought with my birthday and Christmas money when we get to like an acquisition section. I'm trying to drink my coffee without slurping because sometimes that doesn't always sound the best on a microphone. So this was an FO, but before I made this, I actually knit another pair of Lumi socks for my friend back home. And so I don't have those to show you because I sent them off with her. But I do want to I need to show you mine in case you don't follow me on Instagram. I'm not sure what my feet did. I don't know what monster is lurking on the bottom of my feet, but it totally ate through my socks. Like I don't even, look at that. Could I turn it into fingerless mitts? I mean, I could. Oh, actually, oh my gosh. So this would be funny. I mean, that could be a fingerless mitt, right? My hand's feeling chilly. Or it could just be a puppet. So I don't know what happened. I have yarn. I can make another pair of socks. I have to make a pair for my sister-in-law. And so when I made them for my friend, and I just talked to her on the phone yesterday, I gave her I told her again, like, hey, they're like chill out socks. Like, don't be running around and doing a bunch of stuff in them. Can you believe that? I didn't even have those socks a month, and I've already like, I don't know. Like what did my feet do? Like, what is living on the bottom of my feet? So anyway, so I made those socks, then I made this sweater, and then the other day I was working on one of my whips, and I'll get more into this story when I talk about it, but I was almost done with it, and then I ended up having to rip out an entire section, and I wasn't angry or mad at it, but I was really disheartened because I just thought I knew better and I didn't. So I needed something to kind of ease my heart. And so I've had this yellow sugar and cream cotton in yellow, and the colorway is called yellow. So I made some scrubbies. So it's a little bit bigger than the palm of my hand, and you can use it as makeup scrubbies, but I'm thinking you could even use it as a scrubby for dishes. You could use it as a coaster. I mean, really, there's all kinds of things that these could be used for. I'm probably going to use mine to really scrub my face, which I know is apparently it's a big no-no. You're not supposed to scrub your face that hard. But I'm I probably exfoliate harder than what I should. But I don't do it all the time. But I want my face clean. I want all the stuff out. So, and this is crocheted. So I dusted off my crochet hook, shook out my hands, and was like, okay, let's do this. This is a free pattern on Ravelry, and all of my project notes and things that I used, all those details will be on my Ravelry page. So there's that. So before we get into whips, I need to go take care of whatever it is that my son is wanting, and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. So I only had 3 FOs for the month of January, and we'll go into whips. So first off, we'll start with my infinity scarf by Joji Locatelli called Something in the Air. And I have essentially doubled the size that it was. And what I've done is I didn't wet block it, but I did steam block this to kind of see how the drape's going to be, how's the feel. This feels amazing. So this is 6 repeats done. It's a 12 row repeat, and I've done that 12 row repeat 6 times. So I am using Hello Gabriella in the color Cider, and I'm knitting these on 7s if I remember correctly. Yes, on US 7s. I haven't worked on this. I worked on it last week actually, but this is not a project that's on my priority list, and so it's one that I like to come back to every once in a while when I need like just a little something different, something where like I'm in the position where I can concentrate on things a little bit better. And then I like to do that since I have to have the pattern in front of me for the middle motif. It's not always the best to have all times, but sometimes when I get a chance to sit down at the table and work on it, it's really great. So my second whip is my Blue Christmas that I'm working on in a cotton fingering weight yarn. I did a check-in last Tuesday at this time, and I said then that my goal was to have the body finished, and I haven't knit a lick of anything on this in the whole week because I had a moment of thought that really the baby gift that I'm working on is way more important than this. That little baby is more important than this, but it is something that I'm working on. Like I said, it is a fingering weight. I am using Comfy by Knit Picks. This is the color Parchment. This is the color, what is this color? Planetarium. I was like, I know it's something outer space. So it's like a navy, and I feel like it has just a touch of green that makes it like barely a little touch of teal in it or something. There's something about this color that is not like, it's not a cold, sterile navy or washed out. Like there's some depth to it that I really, really like. So when I get this baby knit done, then this will become my main focus. So, and I knit the ribbing on size 1 needles, and I'm knitting the body on size 3. And writing this pattern, what's funny is that the knitting the sweater is easy, but the writing of the pattern is it's tedious because you have to write down every single little thing that you do. You cannot assume everything. And so like I'm writing this down with the assumption that the knitter does know how to actually knit a sweater that could fit them. I'm knitting with the assumption that the knitter knows how to work with their gauge. This pattern is universal. I mean, the design of the pattern is kind of just super simple. You should be able to knit it with any kind of fiber, any kind of yarn weight. And as long as you can find your gauge, you should be able to knit the sweater. Like, it's not, the smug part of me is like, it's not rocket science here, people. But then I know that there are some people that maybe they do need that stuff kind of written out for them, that it's not intuitive for everybody, and everybody learns differently. And I don't know. I feel like I battle myself kind of like between giving enough information, like hand holding, like here's the fish versus here's how to fish. Does that make sense? I want to tell you like here's the pattern and how to make it. Like, I want you to learn how to fish. So I have several pages, and I talked about this in my update. Some of the kids' artworks has ended up in there. Like, I've written down all of the directions on how to make it. And then I have like some kind of like a template for how I would want it to be laid out, and filled in some of the stuff just to see, could this work? Right now, as far as the writing the stuff down, and I don't think I mentioned this in the update, but since I'm wanting this to work with any yarn weight, trying to find like yardages for all of that so far has been the trickiest part. And I've started looking by using projects that have been posted on Ravelry, using made like sweaters that are similar to this design that I have, to kind of get a ballpark, like trying to find multiple sweaters with similar constructions in the same yarn weight, to then average them to say a sweater, excuse me, a sweater with this design in this weight in these different sizes is approximately this much yardage. But I still need to work on it because I don't know if that's going to be good enough to just stop, and I don't know. And I've also, as I've been going, I've made videos that show how I do certain things, like how I go to a new color in the stripes, how I set up the side panel, how I connect the hems. There's different stuff, because a lot of times if I read a pattern, I read too much into it, which ends up getting me confused. And if I just had like a picture or a video to watch, I can watch the video 1 or 2 times and be like, okay, I got it, and be on my way. So it'll be in written word, and then in some places in the video, there'll be video links to tutorials to kind of help out with that. But that one, Blue Christmas, that one is in a timeout. I was like, I just need a break from this for right now, because I don't want to say I'm feeling frustrated, but I'm not sure what the correct adjective would be to describe how I feel about that particular project right now. I don't know. I mean, I think the good thing is I'm writing it as I go. The fact that I already have that much of the paperwork side of it done. I did purchase Kate Atherley's book about pattern writing, and kind of just slowly going through that. Like, as I go through the process, I read about that part of the process as I'm going through it. I didn't just sit down and just read it all through in one time. So anyway, I don't know when I'll have it done, other than to say I'll have it done when I have it done, and there's no timeline that I have to have it done. I would like it done, done. I'd like to have it finished in a timely manner. And I have had some very kind and generous knitters out there tell me that they enjoy the pattern and they would pay for it and they would make it. And I was kind of surprised that even on Ravelry, I have it listed, like I have it posted on my project page, and it's gotten 6 likes. And I thought, for a sweater that doesn't even have a pattern to it, that's really nice that people think that it's good. I'm just kind of like, okay, well, thanks. That's really kind of you to think that. Anyway, moving on. So I'm going to move on to the baby knit. That is the gift knit. I'm trying to stall so that my loved ones have time to turn off the video before I start talking about it. Surely enough time has passed now. So my 4 corners baby blanket, patterned by Pearl Soho. I showed you that I had started on it in the first triangle in the cream color, and I had mapped out kind of a loose plan that I would knit 1 triangle each month, and then by the time I would be done with the whole blanket by the time April got here, which would be perfect timing. Except then I started thinking that after they have this baby, they should also be expecting baby number 2 sometime soon. I don't know how soon after, but and if that's the case, if you have 2 young kids, both kids have to have a blanket. So then I was like, well, I have to get this done because then I have to start on the second blanket. I have to. So you saw that I had started with the white triangle, and then I finished the green triangle, which then moved into the red triangle, which I realize this doesn't look red, but remember that the colors of this were based off of Huey, Dewey, and Louie. And then the blue. And the blue is what I was almost finished with and had to rip out. That left me quite disheartened, and I wanted to work on it, but I had also been like urgently working on this, and yesterday I didn't do any knitting at all because I had to rest my arm because it was starting to hurt. I was starting to get aches and pains, and so I knew I couldn't. There's no powering through when that happens. When I start feeling the ache in my shoulder, I even did I would stretch out my hands and I would take breaks and everything, but it was too much, and so I needed to stop. So I don't know how far do I need to go back. So see, I'm just trying to see if it's all in shot. I don't know. Can you see all of that? I wish you could tell me. I think it'll be really great once it's done. This is knit out of Yarn Bee Blended Bliss, and I don't think I have, maybe I do. Aha, Blended Bliss. Let me tell you, the fiber content is 56% cotton, 35% acrylic, and 9% polyamide. So what's great is you can wash it, you can dry it, it's good for babies. So it's not itchy. They live out in California, and so, I think this will be great for them. This is knit on size US 3s, and it's a fingering weight blanket, which is why it's taking me so long. It is a lot of knitting. This will be blanket 1, and blanket 2, let me pull it out really quick. Ouch. Blanket 2 will be knit from, oh gosh, this looks a tangled mess because I've been playing with it, but I'm finally going to use this yarn that I've talked about several times now in different various videos. It's the Yarn Bee 44th Street in Silver Gray and Camel. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the pattern for the triangles half and half wrap, and that will be baby blanket number 2. The fiber content for this yarn is 70% acrylic and 30% polyamide. This is the same kind of yarn that I knit my soldotna out of. It is very soft. I'm excited to see how that second blanket is going to turn out. I do have to make a decision on what size of that pattern I want to make. So in the triangles half and half wrap, there are actually two sizes. There's a large size and a small size. The small size requires 4 skeins of linen quill from Purl Soho. The larger size requires 6 skeins. Obviously, I'm not using linen quill on this blanket, so I'm going by yardage. So I have enough yardage to make the larger version, but I do want to try to keep the baby blankets about the same size. So I might make the smaller size, but cast on just a couple extra stitches just to make sure the width slightly wider. I took my wrap that I have finished and I laid it next to this baby blanket to try to compare sizes to figure out about how many more I need to cast on. And so hopefully by the time we see each other again in February, I will have that second blanket cast on. I don't know how far along I'll be in it, but so those are all of my 3 whips. And I don't normally do an acquisition portion just because I don't normally acquire very much yarn, but since my birthday and Christmas were both in December, I actually got to treat myself to some yarn. So like I said, I bought the Barocco Ultra Alpaca. I purchased this at Magpie Yarns in downtown Lexington. I also purchased a sweater's quantity of Rowan Alpaca Classic. I believe this is in the satin shade, but this is the same yarn that I used to make my wool and honey. You know, filming these, it's true what everyone says. Like, you know, when you're sitting there and you're watching podcasts and you're like, oh, that's that. And then when you go to start filming it, you're like, your brain just stops. It's just like, will not compute. So anyway, I bought 9 skeins of this. Right now, I'm thinking of making Pink Fizz by Andrea Mowry. And so I did treat myself to 2 patterns, Pink Fizz by Andrea Mowry and Reluctant Homeschooler by Caitlin Hunter. And then, was it last week, Andrea Mowry dropped her cabled cardigan. I can't remember the name of it right now. It escapes me. And I'm just like, dang it, Andrea Mowry, stop it. She's just hitting it out of the park right now for me. And I favorited it, but I did not purchase it because I was like, listen, there's enough here. So there's enough here that I have plenty to knit on. But this, oh my gosh. I knew exactly when I went to Magpie Yarn, I was like, I'm going to see if they have this because I want more of it. I want all the sweaters in this. Oh my gosh, I love it. I must have something for alpaca because this is alpaca, this is alpaca. So when I treat myself, there's always a little bit of alpaca in it. And something else that I did. So I have my next half and half wrap color scheme ready. And so I'm going to carry on with the red poppy. Oh my gosh. What's funny is that in person, this doesn't, I mean, it doesn't really match what, like, this photographs like crazy, but in person it doesn't seem that bright. But oh my gosh, I love this. So this is in red poppy, and my second color is going to be, I think it's called Pink Peony. And so I want to tell you why I chose these 2 colors, because you're probably like, Terry, you literally just made a red and pink wrap. So I have I have my leftovers. Oops, wrong leftover. Here's my leftovers. So this is all my red. And then I have 2 skeins. So I'm going to make another small wrap. 2 skeins. This is enough to make a small wrap. I'll end up with 71 grams of one of these left over. But I chose these colors because, like I said in my December video, when I worked on my soul.net, I watched a lot of the royal ballets, like morning classes and everything like that. It made me think of ballet, yada, yada, yada. And that red poppy made me think of the red shoes. And in the red shoes, which is, it came out in the 40s, I think, 30s or 40s. And in that movie, Myra Shear, and her name is like Moira, Myra Shear, who's the lead actress in the movie, who dances in the red shoes. The shoes are red and she has a pink dress. Now, this is more pinky pink, and I think her dress was probably actually closer to like a nude pink when I went back and looked at photos. So if I didn't do this, I could also do honey pink, but I already ordered this. So this is what I'm sticking with. So this will be, he is on the struggle bus today. That, I apologize for my son screaming, but so this will be like an ode to the red shoes. And this is linen quill, and it has alpaca in it. So I think alpaca is just my fiber of choice, my fiber du jour. Because I've watched a lot of podcasts where they knit out of all of these beautiful yarns and luxurious fibers, and I'm just like, I love watching it and I admire it, but I can't do that for myself because it just feels really disingenuous, because I am not a luxury high-end kind of a girl. Like, I like pretty things, but that doesn't necessarily mean like luxurious. Like, does that make sense? Like, I admire and I love all those beautiful things, but to have it in my possession is just doesn't fit with who I am, I guess. So that's everything. I need to go hang out with my kids as usual, figure out what's going on. And oh, before I forget, this might seem silly for me to say this, but in last month's episode, I talked about how I was listening to Selena and how I loved her song, a new song that I had found. And I said the song was Que Creo, and that is not the name of the song. It's Que Creas. Que Creas. What did you think? And if you don't know, so the whole premise of the song is basically her talking to her ex-lover, her ex-boyfriend, and being like, what did you think? I was just going to wait around for you? That, like, let me roll out the carpet for you and just lay down at your feet and grovel at you, you know. It's so good. So it's que creas. Creas. And I'm not a native Spanish speaker, and so if I butchered that pronunciation, I apologize. I've tried really, really hard to keep saying it so that I could try to get close to being able to say it right. So yeah, and another side tangent before I leave is that I love knitting, but I'm a self-proclaimed avid reader. And so in 2019, I read between 40 to 50 books. At least that's what Goodreads tells me I did, because I do log the books on Goodreads when I go through them. So between 40 to 50 books in 2019. And last year in 2020, I read a whopping 8. And I think several of those were like middle grade easy readers. Like, I'm pretty sure Matilda was one of them. And so far in January, I've already read 3 books and I'm working on my 4th book. So that's been really good. So far I reread The Tale of Magic by Chris Colfer, which is a middle grade book. And he also has the Land of Stories series. And I'm not normally a fantasy reader, period. But if it has to do with like fairy tales, I very much like fairy tales. I grew up with fairy tales, and so that's what I like. And the Land of Stories is basically his take on the fairy tale creatures and everything like that. So the Land of Stories is my all-time, I shouldn't say all-time, it's my second all-time favorite series. Anne of Green Gables is my all-time favorite, followed by the Land of Stories. Then maybe Harry Potter for nostalgia's sake, but I reread Harry Potter in 2019 and I did not love it as much as when I originally read them. But I still have all of them because it's all the original hardbacks as they came out. Anyway, so I reread Tale of Magic, which is Chris Colfer's second series that just came out because his second book just dropped, and A Tale of Witchcraft. So I have that one coming up. Then I read As Bright as Heaven, which that was kind of eerily timed because it takes place during the First World War and the flu epidemic that happened. And it takes place with an undertaker and his family. It focuses mostly just on the family drama of it. I would recommend it just because of the unique circumstance that we are in right now with a global pandemic. There's a lot of relatable stuff with what happens in that book and then also kind of what's happening now. It made me cry several times. It was a good read. So let me think if there's something. There's a third book in there. I've been doing these through the audiobooks through my public library. Right now I'm listening to Stamped from the Beginning. Oh, okay, I just remembered the other book. Hold on. Okay. I'm going to try and hold on to that so I don't forget it. Right now I'm listening to Stamped from the Beginning, and it's about 20 hours long, and Stamped from the Beginning is basically a comprehensive history of how racism and racist language and the ideology of racism came to be as we know it. And so it's interesting, and I'm reading it because I think that it's important to read things that challenge your thinking, that give you insight to people who are not like you. I don't know. I kind of, as a reader and as a thinker, I like to take in things that are not necessarily like, for me, looking in a mirror. Like, obviously I am not Black. I don't know what it's like to be a Black person. I never will know, but that does not mean that I don't want to, I don't know, be a willing participant to learn, if that makes sense. And also know that while I'm learning, I like to be able to critically think and think, okay, well, I can agree with this, but I don't agree with that. I think that's more of an opinion rather than how things are. I don't know. I kind of like reading things like that. The other book that I was forgetting and now I'm remembering is Breath Like Air. I have known about this book for several years now, but I've never read it because it's about a neurosurgeon who gets diagnosed with lung cancer, stage 4 lung cancer. And he wrote this book as he was dying. And I knew that it would be sad and heartbreaking. And with my husband going to med school and now in residency, I was like, I just don't know if I can take that right now. But I did it. I listened to it. I read it. It's not very long. It was only about 5 hours. And I had a lot of preconceived notions going into the book of, well, it's written by a neurosurgeon, so he's going to talk way up here above my head, because even though I love to read, I don't believe that I am that smart. Most of the, like a lot of the time when I'm reading a book, sometimes I'll read a book and I'll be like, oh, I love the book. And someone's like, oh, what's it about? And I'm like, you know, I have a hard comprehension is really difficult for me sometimes, but I still love to read. So I was afraid that his writing style was going to be up here and I was just going to have to like really study it. But it was written so lovely and so beautifully plain and so human that it was really, really, really good. It was really good. I highly recommend it. And of course, it made me cry because, you know. So yeah, those are the books that I've read. I think my reading mojo is back, which is so great because when nap time rolls around, I can knit and listen to my books at the same time. And I've started, depending on what it is that I'm working on, I also have a book on my Kindle that I've just kind of slowly been chipping away at. It is a bind up of 4 biographies of like old Hollywood stars. So right now, the first one that I'm on right now is about Ingrid Bergman. And I think there's one about Betty Davis. There might be one about Grace Kelly, but I'm not sure. There's 4, but I'm on Ingrid Bergman right now. And so I love old Hollywood. I grew up watching Shirley Temple movies. Like Turner Classic Movies was something I really enjoyed growing up. And I would watch, you know, all of the MGM musicals like during their heyday. Oh, I loved all of that. So anyway, I need to go. Otherwise, I'm going to ramble on for entirely way too long. Down below, I will have my Ravelry username if you want to check out my project pages, because that's where all of the details are. I include everything on those project pages, and so I'm not going to rehash those down below. So I'll leave that. I'll leave my Instagram handle, and if you have any questions about anything, feel free to let me know, message me, whatever it is that you would like to know, and I'll catch you in February. Bye.